Okay, so welcome everyone to a video on statistics, like the basics, just going over definitions and the meaning and trying to understand some keywords. So first of all, to begin with, in statistics we define a population as everything we're interested in. So may that be the number of people in a town, the number of items produced in a factory, or something along those lines. Now, we want to collect data about this population. We want to know what are their views, or in the case of a factory, what is the strength of items. There's two ways we can do this. We can either use a census, or we can use a sample. Now, with a census, what we're doing is we're collecting data about every single one item in our population. We want to know if it's the people in a town. Let's just go with this example. The number of people in our town is what we're interested in. So, and their views. So a census would be collecting the views of every single one person in the town. That does mean that their views are 100% accurate, but it does come with a time cost and a monetary cost. So we're spending time collecting all this data, and then there's all this data to process. So that's another disadvantage. And there's another method now of collecting this data from this population. It's called sampling. Sampling is when we take a subset of the population, or a selection of observations from a subset of the population, which we use to find out more about the population as a whole. So, and I'll explore this further in the next slide. So the benefits of this is that less time is taken, because we're only going to be asking for a set number of people from this whole town. So there's going to be less time, less expense, few people have to respond, and as a result, less data. But this does come with a trade-off. It's not as accurate, because we don't have the views of every single one person, so we can't be 100% sure that person X is going to have the same views as person Y, and it might not be large enough to show small variations, because with the population there's natural variation. And sometimes we need to have a large enough selection of observations such that we can see these small variations. So the sample kind of abstracts that, it hides that away from us. How I like to remember what these terms mean is sense us. The section us is like everybody, it's like us, we, so everyone as a whole. Whereas sample, it sounds like some people, so sample, I don't know, it just sort of just sticks for me. I don't know if it works for you. But anyways, moving on. So here's a diagram of a village. It's just a bunch of stick men. But what this is showing is actually a population. Say we're interested in the views of a number of people in town. This is our village or town or whatever, yeah? And we're interested in the views of every single one person. So what we do is we ask you, every single person. Now you can see how this is going to be very expensive and it's going to take a long time, but we can be sure it's accurate. And I just like to point out that each individual person in this town is called a sampling unit, right? And now going back to the sample, so moving on to sample, a sample is a subset of this population used to find out more about the population as a whole. So take this for instance, this labeled diagram. Here, each one of these can definitely represent every other ones because they're the same. So it's definitely a good representative sample. And often these, in a sample, the sampling units of a population are individually named or numbered to form a list, what we call a sampling frame. So a sampling unit is named or numbered to form a sampling frame. There's a number, and how I've done it is number 1 associated with A, number 2 B, number 3 C, going forth, continuing. And in essence, that's pretty much the basics of statistics. I think just to recap, or just a quick overview or recap. So statistics is about measuring the population that we're interested in. Population is everything we're interested in. We can find out about the population in two ways: either a census, which is everyone's views, or a sample, which is a selection of views, and it has their own it has their own advantages and drawbacks. And often the individual elements of this population are sampling units from which we can devise a frame, and the frame will be discussed further in the next video, in which we actually apply methods of sampling. I hope this was informative, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.